Hello friends, welcome back. We are down to the last page of our app which we're building, and this is the calculator page. So let's start building the page. We start exactly like we do every time. Create a page. Create a root view. And we're going to give the layout as column. So our calculator has got a top portion is where we are displaying the results, and there is a bottom portion. You'll remember this from our first video where we saw the app in action. And the bottom part is where all the keys are laid out in a grid. Okay, so that's why we're going to create a column layout. And then we're going to have a top, and let's give this a little padding because we want the label or the result to be a little spaced and be easily visible. Then let's add another app view, which is our bottom. We'll come back and do the layout after we do the bindings. So let's just create the structure right now. So on the top we create, which is the result, it's a label, and let's give it a large. That's about it. Now let's come to the keys. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the grid alignment feature which we used in the movies listing page. So what we do is we just create one button here. Okay, so what we're going to do is, and it's going to be a button. And how we're going to create a grid is we're going to bind this to an array, and we know the array gets, we can lay out an array in any of the formats. We can use a grid or a column or a row. In this case, we're going to use a grid because that's the layout of the keys. So this is a structure. Now what we're going to do is, like we did last time, is we're going to create, before that, let's go and create the new app command for the navigation before we forget. Let's put it on the menu. Let's put it also on the bottom navigation bar for a change. And let's also give it an icon. And we link it to the calculator page. This is done. Now we come back to the assets, and we create a new data asset, and let's call it the buttons. And we edit this, and we put a little data structure like this. So it's an array, we call it buttons, and inside there are objects with just one value, which is the label. So these are the labels in our calculator, and we're going to bind our bottom part of the calculator page with this array, so they will all get laid out in a grid, and we will see pretty soon. It's pretty efficient way of doing it. We don't have to actually add each button one by one. This does it for all. Okay, so as before, we come back and we parse it to schema, and we put it in our response folder. paste schema. Okay, so there we go. We got the buttons, which is an array, and then each one has a label. So now we are ready to do the binding of the calculator page. So we get back to the calculator page. So the top part of the calculator doesn't have any binding because that's a value which is computed. So on the bottom we have to create a binding, and what we're going to do is we're going to data source as response. Sorry, it's going to be buttons. The structure is response, and the data binding is buttons, which is the top element in the JSON structure. And we do a save. Then we come to the button itself. And what we're going to do is we're going to bind it to the label, the value as well as label. And we're going to go to the view, and we're going to select the desired width as 25% because we want 4 items to appear in one row, and container layout is grid. Okay, so now just to do a recap, we created the page, created a top part of the page and bottom part. The top part has just got a simple label called the result. The bottom part has repeating buttons, and it's laid out in a grid of 4 by 5. We created the data for these labels, and we bound the data to the labels. And we created the navigation button for this page. So this is about setting up the page. Now we have everything about the page itself, and now what we need is we need to create the interactivity. So let's just see what we get. Let's build this Flutter project. Okay, there we have it. Let's run the calculator and see what we get. Okay. Yeah, so this is exactly what we expected. We have these keys laid out in a grid. And on the top, there's a little space to hold the result. It doesn't have a label yet because we didn't give it anything. So this is the first part of this tutorial. Let's stop here. We'll come back in the next episode, and we're going to complete the programming side and give it interactivity. So I'll see you in the next episode.